And thank you for joining us this morning for our City Council work session. We'll go ahead and get started. Connie, could you please call the roll?
Cheatham.
Here.
Burrick.
Here.
Mangum. Here. Mansfield. Nichols.
Here.
Paulson.
Here.
Ladd.
Here, thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 2 is Golf Advisory Committee update. Representatives from the Golf Advisory Committee will discuss the committee's goals and projects as well as council's policies and expectations.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Ann Butler, Parks and Recreation Director. I'm joined at the table with DJ Mills and Greg Albright from 4 Golf. I'll do the initial introduction of our presentation, then I'll let them take over to talk about what we've done this year. So, our chairman is Billy Satterfield. He's not here today. We have a vice chair, Danielle Mabey, who's here. Ginger Smith, Shane Warner, who's here. John McCloskey, DJ Mills at the table, Greg Albright from 4 Golf, and then we have some other 4 Golf representatives that are regularly attend our meetings, which is Gerald Myler and Brian Sprague. We'd also like to thank Councilman Corey Mangum, who's our liaison for this committee. The Golf Advisory Board continues to be active, working with the golf concessionaire and our city staff to make sure the appearance and the condition of our golf courses look nice. And we're always looking for strategies to increase play on the courses. We'd really like to thank the mayor and council for you guys' support currently and over the past few years. One thing I'd like to note also is the addition of the VFD that you guys procured with the water department at the Cree Well has a huge positive impact for the golf course. We've had some struggles throughout the years with water hammer. And so this VFD, we're anticipating, now we have a few things to fix along the way in conjunction with the VFD, but we're really excited about that, and that will be a huge positive project for us moving forward. DJ, or Greg. Talk about recent projects. You want me to keep going?
Oh, no, I can speak to the recent projects. We're still working on yardage markers, replacing them and putting out new ones. We like the city parks and the talking with Brett with the cemetery and that, we sustained a lot of tree damage this winter. So we've been working a lot with pruning trees, getting the hangers out of the trees, and then we've also been removing some of the trees with what we're capable of doing. We're working on cart paths, landscaping. We're in the process of seal coating and striping the parking lot up at Highland. We sustained some sewer line damage, so we need to first fix that before we start to fix the parking lot.
Just so you know, Greg, I've done my best to get rid of some of those trees also.
I appreciate that. You want me to continue on the rounds? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I can talk to the play report. So rounds in 2023, we have done 67,000 roughly. In 2022, we did 60. So we had a little bit of an uptick in 23, and then 61 and 21, and roughly 60 and 20. So there's been when I talk to the golfers, with the COVID that we went through, it was actually a benefit to the golf industry, where some industries were really suffering. It gave the public something to do, so it actually helped the golf industry as a whole. So that's part of why we've had an uptick in that. Our pass sales for 2023 are 764. Do you know what the pass sales were for?
Season.
808. So we've had an uptick in the second season passes as well. In 22, we had 776, and 21, 795. Our tournament participation has been really good. Our league play has been good. Our junior programs have increased. In the past, we were roughly about 100 kids. We've had about 130 kids in our junior league program this year at both locations. So that's been good. We also provide playing opportunities for the high schools. We charge them for range balls, but we don't charge them for play. The local schools, when they will host an event, we will charge the outside schools to come in to participate in an event, but we don't charge our local schools. And then with the ISU women's golf team, we provide them with playing opportunities as well. And then I approached here a couple months ago by Pauline Theris, the athletic director, about helping out. They wanted to host the ISU cross-country conference championships at the end of the season. And it worked out for us with the golf course because that's about when we start to close up one of the golf courses anyway. So we're going to help them out of Riverside.
Sounds good, though. They had one other one in September that was a little bit iffy, but you were able to work that out.
Yeah. I met with them yesterday. They were we drove some carts around. We were trying to look at, okay, if they held a cross-country meet, what kind of a routing do they want to do? So we took some carts out and drove around and looking at some possibilities. They have another coach that's coming on here in a week or so, and I'll meet him and take him out there and kind of show him what we came up with and see if that's something that'll work.
Cool.
But yeah, that'll just be the one day that's a Friday, and Pauline was really good to work with us on that. So I think it'll work out okay.
Good. Thank you for that.
Since 2019, we've expanded our season passes, so we try to provide pass opportunities for everyone. And so we implemented that family pass, we'd implemented a senior combination pass, and those have steadily increased over the years. We have some discount opportunity play through our E-Club, and our E-Club is a site that you can opt into off of my point of sale system. And it's, you provide your email address, and I will provide you with upcoming events, league play, where the leagues are being held at that week, what the format is, what time they start, and then other playing opportunities, along with our amateur tournaments and stuff like that that's going on. I'm looking at, with my point of sale system, they are partnering with Golf Now, which is a national golf marketing with rounds of play and stuff like that, just to see what opportunities there are that we can market with them to try to increase play as well. And then I don't know if you watched any of the US Open this year, but we partnered with Channel 6, and they did some really nice commercials for our local golf courses. And then we work with them with some playing opportunities too that they can sell. Cool. Our Youth on Course program, how that works is, we offer season passes for junior golfers, and those season passes have stayed pretty steady over the years. But what has really increased is the Youth on Course program. And so kids can contact Idaho Golf Association. They can purchase a card for, I believe it's $25. And with that card, they're provided with a member number. And then they can sign in at either the golf shops, and it's not just our courses, but a number of the courses throughout Southeast Idaho provide this as well. And when they sign in, their round of golf only costs them $5. I'm also supplemented with that $5 through Youth on Course Foundation. So it's actually worked out very well for us as well. But to give you an idea, this year in May, the two golf courses combined, we did 324 Youth on Course rounds. I just submitted the rounds for July just last week, and they did 675. Wow. So there's a lot of kids that it just gives them another opportunity to maybe play that maybe they couldn't afford to buy a pass for $150 or $200, but they can't afford to pay $5 each time they play. Yeah. So yeah, that's worked very well. Do you want me to address some of the future needs?
I can do that.
Okay.
So we as the committee, we're aware that there's budget constraints. We're aware that you have a lot of competing departments within the parks or competing areas within the parks that need to use to use funds for different projects. But as a committee, with that being said, we do feel like the most pressing need would be a clubhouse at Riverside Golf Course. Probably no surprise. We discussed this last year a little bit. But we have been working on some proposals to bring that to fruition for Riverside. In terms of other things down the line, Greg mentioned we had a tough winter. We've also got some tree forestry and removal at the courses that we'd like to see done. It's pretty dense out there, pretty thick out there. When you have trees, I think the common misconception is that it's you don't have to water as much because there's shade. The problem with that is the trees actually soak up all the moisture. So if you were to notice that when you go under a tree, the grass is actually a lot thinner than it is away from the tree because of that. And Brian, who's the superintendent, he had mentioned that people think that he maybe cuts the grass at different courses because the grass is different, based on when you're under a bunch of trees at Riverside versus maybe not at Highland. And then additionally to that, in the future, the irrigation system was put in many, many decades ago, okay, in the 80s and 90s respectively. So that is running past its useful life. And so that is something that the city and the concessionaire are managing by doing fixes throughout the season as they come up. But that will be something that is going to need to be addressed down the line as well. But, I'm sure you can imagine, but when it comes to conditions at a golf course, I mean, it is kind of the lifeblood of a golf course is keeping things green and want to play with. When it comes to additional economic benefits of the golf courses for the city, we believe that when you have tournaments, they do attract out-of-town visitors. And so we believe that when you have out-of-town visitors, you're having additional economic benefits by having people come in from out of town and spend money at various places, whether that's fuel, whether that's lodging, whether that's restaurants. They will be spending some monies there. They will also might buy retail items, whether that's at a pro shop or whether that's, somewhere else. We think that golf course, they attract higher spending groups to the local committee. It's not necessarily the cheapest sport to play, and so it does attract a certain level of disposable income that groups may have to spend money on the golf course. And then we believe that it assists in higher property values for the homes that are near the golf course, right? A lot of people, Billy could obviously attest to that more than I could, but people value being on the golf course when you have unobstructed views. You have you have the views of maybe no backyard neighbors, as well as like open sight lines across the city that can be had when you're living on the golf course, which then makes the homes on that area more attractive. As well as we think it can help attract businesses, with the old adage of business deals are done on golf courses, right? So with concluding remarks, as stated earlier, we consider the golf courses are a significant asset to the city. We believe they provide quality recreation. We believe it's a growing recreation as the numbers that Greg provided. And we think it has a positive impact on the golf course. We think we have 2 excellent golf courses that are valuable assets to the city. And we believe the golf course concessionaire, as well as the city staff, care deeply about the golf course and as well as the golfers who use them. And on behalf of myself and other committee members, we'd just like to thank you, the mayor and the council members, for your ongoing support for this golf course.
Thank you. Any questions, council?
I have several, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. You
I'm
got it.
curious how the play on the courses is split between Highland and Riverside.
DJ actually asked me that question, and I think they're both really comparable. I would say maybe Riverside has a little bit more play just because it's easier to walk.
Yeah, that's
For
why I
those
used
that
to
do
play
want
there.
to get out and get
When you
some
get to
exercise.
stand in a flat spot too once in a while.
Yeah, and it's easier to play, I think, but it's also definitely easier to walk.
Yeah.
For sure.
Are you doing a lot of club rentals, especially for the
Rentals,
youth?
When somebody comes from out of town that doesn't want to travel with their clubs, we'll rent some clubs. And sometimes it'll be newcomers to golf too. We'll rent some to those as well, but not a ton.
Are most of those youth players bringing their own clubs then?
Yeah. I think golf is equipment-wise has gotten more affordable. So I think people can pick up a set of clubs from one of the local sporting goods stores for maybe under $200 or so. So it's not too bad.
It's encouraging, I think, to hear that golf has come back. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, your report was a bit dismal about the future of golf across the country.
It wasn't just us, it was nationwide, and the PGA was trying to come up with different initiatives to try to stimulate play, and PGA Junior League and a number of others. But like I mentioned earlier with COVID, I feel bad for other businesses, but it's certainly been a blessing for golf because it really did. To give you an example, here in Pocatello, we were shut down for half a day based on of what the information we were given from the Attorney General on that in the state of Idaho. Whereas where my mom lives in California, that public golf course was shut down for 3 months. So, I mean, people were looking for things to do, and golf was a safe avenue. So they're outdoors, they were away from each other. If they wanted to go out there as a family unit, they were safe doing that.
Excluding the clubhouse at Riverside, what's the condition of the overall infrastructure at the golf courses? The fences, the grass, the cart paths, the tee boxes? Is everything in good shape, or do we need to put some attention on some of those
I
things?
mean, they can always improve. I think the courses themselves are in good shape. And I hear that from outside play, people coming to play in our tournaments, people traveling through town. They'll compliment me on the condition of our courses. But we do need to do something with the clubhouses, and we do need to do something with the irrigation system. Like DJ alluded to, we try to do all that we can to keep things working, particularly with the irrigation system. But there is some different issues with particularly the clubhouse out at Riverside Golf Course, with some settling and issues with windows, issues with plumbing, electrical, and that I'm always dealing with. That and just really not enough adequate space there. And the intentions of it was an actual barn. So we've made good use of what we've had. So.
How have the marmots treated you?
How the
Rock chucks?
The rock chucks, there's not as many. There is still a few up there, but not too bad.
They're moving to Ross Park.
I was gonna say, Ross Park's crazy.
There's those and there's the geese, and we deal with the geese every year.
Yeah.
I also want to say, I think the clubhouse condition at Riverside is costing us revenue in other ways, not just golfers.
Yeah.
I think there is a market there. If there was a nice restaurant there, that would really bring in more revenue to supplement, just in addition to the golfers. People want to come and golf, and they want to spend an hour or two with their friends in the clubhouse. And right now, we can't really provide them that opportunity. So there are some things that we could do to drive revenue up at the golf course if we had the amenity to match that.
That's a really good point. And I know that we've lost some of our golfers to the country club for that very reason, because of the amenities that they have aside from the golf. Because course to course, I think we're very comparable with the country club. But after that, people that are business owners and they want to take prospective clientele or whatever, they want to sit down somewhere really, really nice afterwards and socialize.
We had a problem with water on the north end of the course. Has that been resolved?
We're working on that. So the irrigation system was set up to have two delivery sources. And one of the delivery sources, which is the Cree well, which has got contaminated water in there, we were having pressure issues with that, which was causing problems for us at the golf course with some breakage with the irrigation system. So that's what Ann was talking about with that VFD. That will help in alleviating some of that. And we just had a meeting here this week and we're trying to work through some of the different issues that we have. And us as For Golf and my superintendent, we're all for utilizing some of the Cree well water. If that's not culinary water, it only makes sense that we're putting that on grass. We just want to make sure that the way that it's delivered to the golf course is safe for the irrigation system.
More specifically, I meant those ponds on the north end of the course, where you were having a problem with excess water during a drought.
We were, and we worked with the city. My superintendent worked with putting in this drainage line, I guess it would be, that goes back to the Portneuf. We installed that. So that, I think that has really alleviated the water issue that we had, because before that, Brett and the city continuously had to pump out the excess water out of there. So now it's downhill, it flows out. We have a couple ponds, which are nice features for the holes. Unfortunately, it kind of attracts the geese too, but then we deal with the geese problem too. So.
Thank you.
Linda?
You talked about the tree damage this winter, and we know like the cemetery and other parks and trails. So I was wondering how that has affected things. I know you cleaned up and everything, but has there been sort of long-term damage or problems? And can you tell how much of that damage was caused by the mayor? Just kidding.
So we were pretty fortunate. Fort Golf has a gentleman on staff that has a very good skill set in tree trimming, and so we worked together between his staff and our staff to try to clear those trees. The bigger issue, I think we got that cleaned up. The bigger issue is we've had, I think it's a beetle, is what we're believing, that is killing some of our pine trees and spruce trees.
Yeah.
We're working with Brett and the Extension Office to figure out if we can treat that. But we've lost about 50 trees this year.
Probably 50 between the two golf courses. Unfortunately, some of the trees where they're located really help in the design of the hole. And so losing those trees has actually kind of changed the design of the hole itself. So, and the disease, I took some pictures from Rand yesterday because I didn't know exactly what was killing the trees either, if it was a virus or a beetle. But now that I've looked closer, you can see the holes of where the beetles have bored in there. And then some of the bark with the deterioration of the tree, the trees are just falling apart. And it's killed them within a year or less than a year, that they start to die from the top, and in no time the entire tree's dead.
Do we have a way to deal with that, or?
We're working on that now with the Extension Office. It's extremely difficult to treat. You've got to apply the pesticide at the right opportunity at the perfect time to really be effective. So I think we'll probably be able to treat some, but not all.
Okay. And just one last follow-up. The tree grant that we got, are the trees on the golf course going to be included in that, like our inventory and looking at the types of trees?
It'll
And
be in the inventory. I
Okay.
don't know, it's based on income for the grant. And at one point, I don't know that the golf courses were included. Christine can probably tell us right or wrong.
Morning, Christine Howe, Grants Manager. We were able to include all the golf courses in the grant. They had an expanded criteria we were able to use, so it's just a matter of funding, how much trimming we can do and in which priority areas, but it will be in the inventories and stated and in the kind of plan that we have to create as part of the tree grant.
and there will be some money for maintenance and trimming and things like that? Okay, good. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify, when Greg said some of the trees were based on how the hole was done, those are the very trees that I would like to see gone. Anyway, so
And you've
that
been
was
doing your
just a
best
nice
to take
way
them
of
out.
saying, that was just a nice way of saying, yeah, we planted the trees right in the way of all the golfers.
They'll have to take one stroke off par for you, though.
That's right.
Are you sure those holes in those trees are beetles?
Any other questions for me? Yeah, Councilmember.
So, do you offer any type of like beginner get acquainted with golf program, where say somebody gets a day pass, club rental, a lesson, to sort of get them acquainted, into the glories that are golf?
Yeah, we
I don't
do.
golf, but I'm guessing it's glorious.
Oh, that's very good. Idaho State has an NKA program, continuing education program, and one of them is golf. And I told them that I would facilitate that here a number of years ago for ladies that are wanting to learn how to golf. And that's some of the stuff that we cover. Kind of where do you set your clubs when you show up to the golf course? How do you make a tee time? Some of the etiquette things when you're out on the golf course, where to stand and what to do if you're playing a little bit slow. And I've done that for, gosh, it's been probably close to 6 to 10 years now. And I went from one class, and the one class was getting so big, I created a second class. And so the one class is for the more experienced golfers from 11 to 12 o'clock. I charged the ladies $5 for the lesson, but I told NK I didn't want it limited to just their class. I wanted to open up to any ladies that wanted to come. And so I do that class with the experienced, and then I'll do another one that's for more the beginners from noon until 1 o'clock. And, there's times the one class, I'll have upwards of 25 ladies. And then the next one I'll have maybe a dozen to 15. So, and then I created some playing opportunities for them, discounted playing opportunities on Wednesday out at Riverside. And not everybody learning to play golf wants to invest the time or the effort to maybe play 9 holes. So I came up with discounted rates to play 4 holes, to walk, and a discounted rate to play 4 holes with a golf cart too. And so there's and my goal is with the ladies to, as they're starting, once they feel comfortable, now they can get out on the golf course and start to experience playing golf rather than just jumping out there right away. Because golf it's not easy for everybody. And if you go out there and you play and you're holding people up and maybe they're getting upset with you, and now you've come away with a bad experience. And that's the last thing I want. I want them to go out on the golf course when they feel comfortable and they feel like they can play.
Mayor, follow up. So for your classes, what age demographic are you seeing? Are you seeing many young people?
Well, the junior league program, which is kids that are 5 to about 18, that just ended, and that includes, so we started Highland, 2 lessons, 2 playing opportunities, and then we moved down to Riverside, because a lot of parents, they asked, once one program was done, now what is there? And so I spaced them out, so now they can do both programs, and they've got golf all summer long if they want. So that's younger kids, but then this class that I was just describing, it varies in age. I mean, I've got high school kids that have showed up to my clinics, and I've had retired show up to the clinics as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Council President?
Just one quick follow-up to Brent's question. As far as the classes for new people and introducing them to golf, is it all women, or are there,
No,
do you include
well,
men?
for that class, it is ladies. I have another golf professional that teaches lessons as well. We do, and we offer group clinics if they want to organize a group within themselves. We do individual lessons, just whatever benefits them as far as learning opportunities. Yeah.
Potential for a new golfer?
Yeah, I don't have one right now, and I'm working on that, offering something for guys. I think the ladies, they like the social aspect of it. They want to come as a group with friends, and I think that encourages them to play golf. Guys, maybe not so much. They want to improve, but maybe not so much in a group atmosphere.
Councilman Cheatham?
Last question from me. We've seen a lot of inflation the last couple of years. Has that affected play at the golf courses here? Have you had to raise costs?
We do, but our increases are to the Northwest cost of living increases. And there we're talking about a couple percentage. I mean, this last year with inflation and everything that was going on, that was probably our biggest increase, and I think it was around 6% or something like that. So green fee wise, it's pretty minimal. You're talking maybe 50 cents or something, maybe $1 at most. Season passes, an adult pass, you might be talking an additional maybe $15, $20, if that. So still, I hear from the golfers of pass-wise in particular, how inexpensive it is in comparison to other places. They feel like they have a really nice opportunity to play golf at a reasonable rate.
Good.
You get to, just to piggyback on that, because you get 2 courses for that. A lot of places don't allow multiple courses on a pass, so that's what's pretty lucky about here.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We'll move to agenda item number 3 is Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee update. Representatives from Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee will discuss the committee's goals and projects as well as council's policies and expectations.
Vale and Butler Parks and Recreation Director again. I'm joined at the table with Tanya Wilkes, who's the Vice Chair of the Parks and Recreation Board. She also represents School District 25, so we love having her on this advisory committee.
No school district questions, I'm just kidding. I'd like to share out, good morning, Mayor and board members. First off, our president is Dave Paciatti. He is ill today, so they've asked me to come and present to you guys. I'm going to go over board members that are part of the team is Catherine Hickok, Darren Black, Grace Jory, Lisa Wilmore, Anastasia Hershey, Alexis Jorgensen, Ed Gigley. Yep. Is that right?
Yep.
Pam Pascali, Bill Satterfield, and our council board liaison, Hayden Polson. And we have a really good attendance, and a great board. So general board information, we meet 6 times a year on even months. Our meetings are the first Thursday of the month, and attendance is really good. We've had a really consistent board members that come back and continue being part of that board, which is really important so that we can see progression. Key projects and issues that the board has been involved in and provided input on since our annual presentation to the council last year are partnerships and opportunities program. We've identified needed park system capital projects and improvements. We feel that some good momentum has come from that, and successful partnerships. For instance, the Idaho Central Credit Union with the Splash Park at OK Ward. It's been a huge success this summer with Portneuf Health Trust, which we're going to see the benefits of that coming up here next month, September 5th. And boy, that's going to be a good ribbon cutting that you'll want to attend. They've done some really incredible things over there. And then we have even smaller projects going on with Neighborhood Works, putting in a new park system, or no, I shouldn't say system, playground system and so forth. United Way and some other sponsors and local business support the Parks and Rec Department. And Ann is really good about bringing them in and having them present to us and talking to us about where the best fit is. And so it's been a great partnership. The ARPA funding has been an amazing tool to improve the infrastructure of many parks and recreation amenities. Ross Park slide, if you have not seen that, how amazing that is. And boy, the kids are come flocking. I think the Ross Park Aquatic has really been in an improvement stage there with the new food service as well. People are going there to eat, which is different.
I've had a couple of people tell me that. We just go over there to eat. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's awesome.
So,
Butterburs. Okay, anyway, Cemetery Road repaving completed mid-July. Brooklyn Playground resurfacing. If you haven't seen that, that has been outstanding. That's been a huge improvement there as well. And pickleball courts, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks here, you'll be able to see the creations of that at Lower Ross Park. And coming soon, a new skate park. That's been on the agenda for many, many years, and I really do appreciate the support on that. And the location, I think, is pretty ideal that we're talking about. Improvements to infrastructure, the Ross Park Aquatics Complex, again, that's been huge for our community. And the city staff keeps us looped in on budgetary issues, staffing informed about all our department programs and services. It's really awesome to get the numbers and seeing that increase with even softball or all the different programs that are being added and so forth. So it really does help us, and I love the online system now to get this information. Even at the school level, being able to present that without paper form has been super beneficial. As a note, emphasis regarding provisions and programs and services, the Parks and Rec's ability to locate, attract, hire, and retain qualified seasonal staff continues to be difficult, and I totally understand that. And we recognize the council's support in making increases to wages and appreciate their efforts. It is really hard to get those people, on the ground and working to keep everything at their best efforts of our parks and systems. Our projects of needing our radar, going to echo Riverside Golf Course Clubhouse, we talk about repeatedly. Tennis courts, I don't know why, but that's been our struggle as this district even this last couple of years, and so we're working on those, and parking lot improvements and connection of the trails. The board is excited to see the results of the PROS plan. I know I participated, and I know a lot of community members participated, so it's good to hear back from the community where our needs and strengths and the weaknesses are, and so we're looking forward to getting that back. Thank you to the City Council on behalf of Parks and Rec Board. We would like to thank Mayor Blatt and the council members for your continued strong support for Parks and Rec. It is crucial that we continue that. We are very appreciative of the council's continued commitments that have allowed Parks and Rec to accomplish what it has this past year in providing the valuable service and programs to the community. The advisory board and staff will continue to work together closely to provide outstanding parks and recreation programs and services. play often, and live better. And I know this wasn't on here, but Hallowell Park has had huge improvement as well. So I really do think we've really overcome some barriers this year, and we hope to continue that growth.
Super. Thank you. Questions? Rick, Brent?
Part of the, I guess I'm going to call it immigration into Idaho the last few years has included a disproportionate number of older residents. Are there recreational opportunities, new things that are out there? I mean, I never thought we'd be talking about pickleball the last 2 or 3 years because I'd never heard of pickleball before that. But are there other kinds of senior citizen or older resident recreational opportunities that we should begin to look at or get a handle on to meet the needs of this older group that's moving to Idaho?
Rick, we've got a skateboard park coming.
A skateboard park wasn't one of the things I was thinking of. I don't think that'll appeal to a 70-year-old. It doesn't to me, but maybe to Brent.
I'll let Ann chime in a little bit on this as well, but I got to tell you, with parents in the community, the senior games are phenomenal. And they really do bring our senior citizens together and form new conversations. But we bring a lot of people from the outside the community. Like, we travel a long ways just to come and participate. Outstanding. And we work with partnership on helping provide facilities for that, as well as the school district. But we do really target all populations. I believe all populations are important. And the senior citizen population with the swim program at the rec center and so forth, with the golf, with the pickleball, which is hugely popular with the older generation. But, you know, I never knew this existed with the chair volleyball and so forth. I mean, they're continuing those past the senior games as well, because it opens up those opportunities. And I think, you know, our Parks and Rec department does not emphasize one generation over the other. And I love that. I love that the senior population is just as equitable.
I guess my question is, are there things out there in other communities, particularly in retirement communities perhaps, that are appealing to that population, that as that population moves into Idaho, we should begin to be aware of it? I mean, the senior games only happen 10 days out of the year. Mm-hmm. What about some of those things? Should we begin to look at that population as a permanent recreation source or for
I think your biggest trend is pickleball right now. Mm-hmm. But I would also say you're seeing that in our lazy river walking at the pool. Mm-hmm. That happens in the morning before the facility opens, and those numbers go up all the time. And that is definitely an older clientele that can come walk during the day. If they could be there every day of the week for 2 or 3 hours that morning and night, they would do it. We just don't have the staff to accommodate that. We have several classes at the rec center that are specifically tailored to an older clientele. And if that fills up, we book another one. So that's another one. And then I know outdoor recreation has been looking to cater to some of their classes specifically for an older clientele that wants to learn how to hike or would be comfortable going out with a group to hike. Maybe something that might be a little more stable so that they can control how difficult that trail is. They've even talked about mountain biking, and I don't know how far that'll go. We'll see. Maybe it'll become an e-bike thing, but I think you'll also see that in our fun runs as well. The fun runs, there are several different divisions there. You can walk a mile or a 2.5K, or you can run it, and you'll see a variety of different ages that want to do that. And walking is a huge deal for an older generation. That's one of the easiest things that they can do.
And I piggyback off that. The connection of the paths are huge because the e-bikes are getting more and more popular with that population and walking. So those connections are beneficial for them. They don't have to travel from one to the other.
Right. You know, I think you and I talked about bocce ball. I didn't even know we had a bocce ball in Pocatello. So is that increasing or declining? Is that one of those things?
I don't think it's necessarily increasing. I think it's kind of steady. I think some people look at it and go, oh, I'll give that a try, and sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. It might be an ebb and flow thing, but I haven't seen that yet.
I think Frisbee golf is one of those others as well that's getting,
Oh, yeah. We've got 3 or 4 courses of Frisbee golf around town.
Okay, thank you.
Usually see younger people playing that. I don't see the senior population when I see people playing that game.
they're getting more involved. I mean, it's like, I know those senior games are only once a year, but it's those opportunities to connect them to different sports, right? They look at all the list and, well, I'm gonna try this, and those are what sparks growth.
I know one of the senior games events that I participated in, we had people come up from Utah for, specifically for what was happening in Pocatello, because it was not happening in their hometown.
Yeah.
They even start to practice before those, right? I mean, it just creates that social event, and that's exactly what they need. And I think the cool thing about it as well is it puts them in the spotlight, which is well needed.
Good. Thank you.
Councilmember Nichols and then Council President Lerner.
Hi. So how's the new slide ride count going? Do you track that?
We do track that. I don't have all the numbers. Typically, you'll see 300 or 400 in a day. I know a few weekends ago, those are just sold slide passes on top of their regular admission. Normally in the facility, you'll see 800 to 900 people. A few Saturdays ago, we had almost 1,600 people in that facility and had sold about 540 slide passes on top of it. So I really like to see above 500. It's not going to be our regular everyday number, but the reviews have been fantastic on the slide right now. I haven't had an adult or kid tell me that was lame or anything. They're thrilled with it.
So resounding success?
I think so.
Okay.
And I love that there's two, so if you do have one down, you'll always have one up and going, right?
So we're always making money.
Yep.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Council President.
I also, just to comment on that, I like that the two are different. And, I mean, not just in terms of how they're built, but the speed too. So you can have options for what people feel comfortable with, yeah. I just wanted to add one activity that I talked to some seniors that are very excited about is dancing, line dancing and other types of dancing classes. I know we have NKA line dancing classes that happen at the Elks Lodge, and they're really popular, but I believe some of those people also say that there's classes at the rec center, but I'm not sure about that. But I was thinking that's something that I know a lot of seniors do like to do.
We're really hoping that the new multi-purpose space that was the weight room will open some doors for the rec center, namely classes, but also rental opportunities for parties or trainings, things like that.
Okay.
The space is perfect for exactly that.
Yeah. And even things like ballroom dancing or that can be either couples or just both genders, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We will move to agenda item 4 is Safe Streets and Roads for All Action Plan Draft. Engineering Department and Planning Development Services staff members will be in attendance to present findings regarding the development of the city's Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A action plan. Staff will present the findings established to date and the draft goals and receive feedback from the council. Council feedback will be incorporated into the final draft plan, which will be considered for council's adoption at a future regular city council meeting. And I'm confident that that was written by Christine because she cannot slow that down. And we've got the acronym SS4A. We got to do it for all of them, don't we?
I try to put as many words and acronyms in there as possible, just to draw out the presentation for you all. Christine Howe, Grants Manager.
Becky Babb, Public Works Project Manager.
And this morning, we're going to be talking about our Safe Streets and Roads for All action plan. You've probably heard us talking about this quite a bit over the last year. The city was awarded a grant from USDOT to complete this plan. And so I think I skipped one slide here. And so we've been working on this since about June of 2023. And the goal here is to establish the plan so that we can then apply for some implementation money to put in place some of the projects and achieve the goals that we come up with the plan. This is our first draft that we're presenting to you. We've been working with an outside consultant to do some more in-depth reviews of areas around the city. And so we'll have some of those projects to present as well that were included in your packets. So as mentioned, USDOT gave us this grant award in 2023. And the goal is to implement what they're calling their safe systems approach. And this approach really recognizes that drivers, pedestrians, and whoever else might be in the roadway may have, methods of transportation or moving throughout space that could cause roadway issues, crashes, fatalities. And so the idea of this plan is to not think that we're never going to have any crashes or accidents, but that accidents happen. And so what can we do to ensure that those aren't fatal or severe? And that includes both infrastructure improvements and behavior improvements. So, I'm sure we've all been a pedestrian that's darted across the street before the crosswalk to, get to the point A to point B in the fastest way possible. But some of those behavior changes are things like that this plan can address through some of our infrastructure improvements. And same thing for vehicles, so that if cars are speeding or going the speed limit, maybe we can realign some roadways, do some better signage, things like that, to ensure that we're driving safer and these accidents aren't fatal or severe. So one of the goals of the plan is to create a Vision Zero goal, which is essentially no fatalities or serious injuries for roadway traffic. And as mentioned, we'll present the final plan for adoption in September at a future council meeting. And so we engaged the services of Hales Engineering to do an in-depth review of some additional target areas as part of this plan. We really looked at some of the crash data to identify those areas, as well as some of our other city plans, such as the downtown improvement plan, to identify where we wanted to kind of zoom in and see where those improvements could be made, to come up with some more nuanced suggestions that could accompany this broader citywide plan. And so today we'll go over those draft findings and recommendations, look at the draft goals, and then incorporate your feedback into the final plan. If you have additional questions, we can present at an additional work session. But our hope is that we'll get enough feedback today to be able to incorporate that into the final plan for your review and adoption in September. And so I'm not sure how zoomed in on this we can go. I can expand the slides if needed. But this was part of the analysis that Hales Engineering conducted. So essentially they started by looking at various data that we have, including our crash data. And so they developed this crash heat map for 3 project areas that I mentioned in the previous slide, and tried to identify also the existing level of service in terms of the operation of the roads in that area. And you can kind of see in this legend here on the bottom left of the slide, our existing levels of service are quite good in these areas. So that was a good finding to make note of. We're all in the A, B, C. In one roadway was in the D range. I think that was out by Pocatello Creek. And so traffic is moving through those areas quite well, which means we're doing a really good job on our signal timing and things like that. So that's a credit to our streets department there. And so after analysis of this data, Hales then kind of mapped out some of the severe crashes. And because the Safe Streets Plan focuses on reducing those severe and fatal injuries, they mapped out those types of accidents. There are lower level accidents in these areas, but we wanted to focus on fatal and injury. So you can see kind of how those are dispersed through those 3 project areas. In addition, we asked them to look at the pedestrian and any cyclist incidents. That was to give us a sense of anything that involved some of our users who are not in vehicles. And so you can see that the disbursement of those, with quite a few concentrated in that Alameda project area and the downtown project area. And then, of course, over South 5th, There's limitations to what we can do on Fifth and Fourth, so we did not include that as a project area, but we'll have general recommendations that would apply to some of those roadways. And we're always working with ITD and ISU to ensure that our projects are complementary to the work they're doing. And so this slide included the summary of the projects, but we'll just kind of go into some of them. And you have these in your packets to review. But you can see that they're divided out by operations-related projects, safety, or the combination of both. And so these recommendations will allow us to come up with the projects that we can do for the specific project areas. If you look at the summary, you can see some of the recommendations include things like aligning intersections or installing additional sidewalks or bike lanes, a potential for signal locations in terms of adding signals, or potential for rebuilding signals. And so those are some of those recommendations. Becky, do you have anything to add on the operations or safety for these areas?
This map doesn't include any of the projects that we currently have in design. This is just future identified issues that Hales has reviewed. And so, for instance, pole line is scheduled for design in 2026 and then construction after that. So that road, for instance, you would see crashes on, but we don't have, as we have a few suggested here, but the comprehensive list of the things we have in design are not going to be on that list.
That's a great point.
We also have, for the last 2 years, anytime we have an issue come up where maybe Tom says, hey, I really want to look at this particular intersection, or we want to put that on the list for grant funding, I have that list as well, which would also not be on this map because it wasn't included in the information we had Hales look at because we were already aware of those particular issues.
Are there any questions on the Hawthorne area improvement projects?
Any questions, council? Okay. Not so far.
For Alameda, it's similar. We had more safety projects emerge from this area, and that was due to a few more severe crashes in this area. So those that are rated that second highest level. So these things include adding edge striping to delineate travel, more access management, reducing pedestrian crossing distances, and lengthening lanes, realigning some lanes, and then our sidewalks, curb and sidewalk safety improvements. You can kind of see they are concentrated in the area where those more severe incidents have occurred. Any feedback on the Alameda
Questions? Pause. Sorry.
If I may.
He was.
Oh, go ahead.
What is operations meaning?
Operations is the roadway operations. So we would say like signals, signal timing, those kinds of things. Whereas safety might be more crosswalks, rapid flashing beacons. So,
Striping, widening, any of those.
Okay. Councilman Cheatham.
Are most of these incidents related to pedestrians or car versus car or car versus bicycle or motorcycle or?
It depends on the area. So let's go back to this heat map. So this shows the severe crashes. So you can see in this Alameda section, all those orange dots are injury accidents, which more likely include vehicles, and we did not include the property damage classification on these crashes. So it would be, one vehicle with an injury or two vehicles or more with an injury. And then,
But not necessarily vehicle versus pedestrian injury.
well, this, it skipped on me. This will show the pedestrian-related crashes. So
Okay.
this area has a combination of both, all in this corridor here. And you can see it's pedestrian and bicycles. So those involve a pedestrian in a car. So it was a combination in the Alameda area, but you can see in the Hawthorne area, it's fewer, downtown more pedestrian. And then you can kind of use those two maps to compare where you're seeing vehicle-related crashes versus vehicle and pedestrian-related crashes. We did look at both.
I'd like to follow up with a general question. In the initial statistics, what's being studied, there's 5,163 crashes reported between 18 and 22. Is the trend up or down year to year?
So minus COVID, right? We've been we had a slow increase in 2022 and 2023. There was a spike in 2020 and 2021 because there were a lot more people on the roads because people were home, they weren't at work during 9 to 5, and so there were a lot more roadway issues. But since then, 2022, 2023, we just have seen a slight increase of what it had been prior to COVID. So they are going up. We did have 3 pedestrian crashes last year alone. But if you minus out those COVID years and don't include that spike when there were so many more vehicles on the road, we've just had a small increase year to year. And our crash data, our severe and fatality is low compared to other places in the state. And so that is one of the things I think that Hales was able to demonstrate, is that our level of service is very high. Our roads are, the signals, the timing, the design is working well for our community. We just have small adjustments to make to try and address some of those issues.
Is there any indication that once the interstate construction project is done and a lot of that traffic won't be diverted through the community, that could decrease these incidents?
So we didn't look at that specifically. The road that Christine mentioned, the Pocatello Creek that we discussed, that we did attribute that to the interstate construction. That seemed to be an anomaly currently based on the interstate construction. So that is at that Pocatello, Alameda, Jefferson crossing, that the signal, that there was a wait at that signal. And so we recognize that probably is at least partially attributed to that interstate traffic.
Councilmember Nichols has a question.
And this question might apply to Alameda, but it actually applies to everything here. As you get into this, is anything really jumping out at you? Something that we really need to get on and fix?
I mean, a lot of it, like Becky said, is more of the kind of not smaller fixes, but a few smaller things that we can do, such as like wayfinding, restriping, maybe visibility, those kind of improvements. The level of service, like she said, is good in almost all of these areas, either in A, B, or C. So we were pleased. I mean, there's a lot of feedback we've gotten from the public where folks say things are unsafe, but I think a lot of it is perception. So it will take sort of kind of outreach and engagement to sort of teach people that these places are in fact safe and easy to walk in, such as the downtown, and learn to kind of use those signals to cross with the signal, or maybe we might install some more rapid flashing beacons and teach people to kind of look out for those types of things. But it seemed to be driven by some more behavioral based driving things and pedestrian behaviors than necessarily restructuring an entire roadway or an entire system. In a lot of areas, we quite frankly, we can't. We don't have the right of way, we don't have the space, and we don't want to push cars into another location. As part of the downtown, we did have Hales review changing the one-ways couplet of Main and Arthur to a two-way, and just the volume of cars that would travel there and what it would do to those roadways. It was not a feasible option, and the downtown was actually quite manageable in terms of navigating as a pedestrian or a vehicle. There weren't as many issues down there as were perceived. So, we do have nice wide sidewalks down there. We do have tree plantings that act as a buffer. There are crossings that are signalized. Some obviously need to be updated. We're working on ADA ramps down there, but that turned out to not be, a recommendation that came out of this plan. And I know that's been considered through some of our other plans. So I think a lot of it is going to be sort of that behavioral-based work to just sort of teach folks how to navigate these roads in a safer manner, but also implementing some of those smaller projects that we could do, those smaller infrastructure improvements, like more signage and visibility and striping and things like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I've got Councilmember Mangum and then Council President Lurick and then Councilmember Cheatham.
Good morning. Do any of these crashes or incidents relate to ADA accessibility or ADA access or issues of any kind? Or is it just general public basis?
So we did look through ADA. All of the crashes are criteria, any factors that have been included in the police report as a contributing factor, all of that is included in the crash data. A lot of the issues that we have, we were already aware of, safety-wise. So intersections where we already were aware, like Highline, for instance, right? We know we don't have sidewalks. We know that there's a lot of students. We know that there's a lot more vehicles using Highline. And so some of those we didn't have Hales specifically do that traffic study on because we're already aware of some of those issues. Some of these pedestrian crashes, yes, we needed amenities updated, and some of them we've already addressed. So there was a pedestrian accident on South 5th. We had been aware of that. Unfortunately, that accident occurred between design of updating some of that and construction. And so we have since installed updated curbing and gutters and a better crossing with a flashing beacon at that location. So some of them are related to being able to see the crosswalk, see the accessibility. We know in downtown that we have some ADA ramps that aren't compliant, that don't meet current standards. So we have a project that will be done next year that's already been designed and will be in construction next year. Unfortunately, when we applied for that grant, we had the funding to cover 11 intersections. And since the time between design and construction, we only have enough funding to do 5 because the construction costs have gone up so much. So there certainly are some areas where we know we have accessibility issues. We heard during a lot of our feedback, Christine and I have done a lot of engagement through this process. We've been to farmers markets, we've done surveys, we've done open houses, we've talked to a wide variety of people. One of the things that we have heard is that they'd like to have the audible pedestrian notifications installed and updated. And so the projects that we have in the works for, say, Craft Street with the RACE grant will be designed to include those updates. So we know that some of those issues are out there. A lot of them we were already aware of, and some of these crashes do include some component of accessibility, but not all of them.
Thank you.
Okay, Council President.
I just wanted to go back for a minute to what you were talking about, the behavioral kind of education or instruction, and I was just wondering what that would look like. I mean, we've talked about some of the actual fixes that you could do, like the flashing beacons and things like that, but what does the educational campaign or that component, what kinds of things would you be looking at?
Yeah, I think it would be, DOT has a lot of kind of prepared materials for this, and so does the Vision Zero program. So we could do things as simple as sort of public service announcements and just social media posts and reminders. I think in some communities they do sort of walk audits and walk tours, and that sort of teaches and shows pedestrians not only about maybe some things that need improvement with the roadways, but also the good roadways that they like walking on. And so it would be sort of that type of outreach and education through our existing channels to just promote safety. I think they have different months of the year and different events throughout the year that you can really highlight. So if there was for example, the bike to work day or bike to school day. Those would be opportunities to then implement some of these safe systems types of education. And that's the style I think we would move forward with, just based on availability of resources that are out there.
And we did coordinate with the Pocatello Police Department. They already have programs in place. So they have their Alive at 25 program for teen driving. They have seatbelt grants that they use to advocate for people to wear their seatbelts. They have DUI and aggressive driving as programs as well. And those all align with the state DOT goals, which is one of the areas that we also have to focus on. Our plan has to align with the state's plan.
One of the biggest things, if I may, is that I've seen in the time, or heard in the time that I've been on the council, is just comments and complaints from people about traffic issues and speeding. And so what I've noticed is there's a big gap or disconnect between the perception and the reality, or what data shows. Things are relatively safe, but that's not people's perception. So kind of getting those things to be closer to each other. But a lot of what I hear about is not, I was going to say, it's not about safety issues in terms of wearing your seatbelts or ADA accessibility, but just speeding. Everybody thinks their area is the worst for speeding, and that is dangerous, and that people are going to get hit. And so I was thinking, how can we address that issue and just the perception that things are so much worse than they are? And one of the main solutions that people think that we need to implement is speed bumps. And there's reasons we don't do speed bumps, very good reasons for our garbage trucks, our fire trucks, those kinds of things. And I'm constantly hearing from people about that issue and then explaining why that is not the solution that we would use or the best solution for us. So will all of that be part of what you're trying to accomplish or trying to educate people about? How do you deal with that speeding problem?
Yeah, it's a tough.
It is a tough one. I think it's covered a lot under the aggressive driving programs. One of the things that has been really interesting through this process is how well our signals are timed, particularly on those places where people do speed. So through our downtown and through Yellowstone, and Mike Neville can really do a much better job, and Tom as well. But those lights are timed. If you are going 40, you're gonna get stopped. So it's there. If you do a nice steady 35, you really do hit green lights mostly. And so our levels of service are really high, showing that we're using all of the tools that we have to manage as best we can those issues. And I know that our Pocatello Police Department does have the aggressive driving, and they are always on the lookout for those behaviors. But it really is a perception issue. We've noticed when we have construction going on, people will call, and it's always interesting to hear someone say, well, someone was going 50 down my street. And I think, well, there was a stop sign about 45 yards before that, and there's one on the next block. So if they hit 50, unless they're in a little Subaru WRX, I really don't think they're making that turn. So there really is a perception issue. I don't know how much outreach we will do, but that is certainly something that we can include in our goals, is to include the speeding and aggressive driving in the outreach for this program. And that would be coordinated with the aggressive driving program that the Pocatello Police run.
And I think other infrastructure improvements that we already implement, we'd continue to do. So where we have those like curb bump outs so that the pedestrians can get out and see the traffic flow. So even if folks are not speeding, I mean, if you're right next to the car that's going 30, 35, it does feel quite fast, especially if we're on sort of narrower lanes like in the downtown. And so I think continuing those types of infrastructure improvements that we've already been implementing as we get funding to do them That makes a pedestrian more visible, it makes everyone a little bit safer, and then that roadway appears a little narrower, so maybe you're driving a little slower through that, just naturally as kind of your response. So, or when there's, cars parked on the sides or bike lanes, folks tend to sort of slow down. And so I think continuing that as well, as we have the funding available, we have our complete streets design that we've adopted and things like that. So those all help with some of that. But yeah, if it's that folks do cut through neighborhoods and roll through stop signs, and that's kind of part of the outreach and engagement is to discourage some of that, and then ensure that cars that are moving through the city are on the roadways they should be on versus, maybe riding back streets trying to avoid traffic. And so that's where all of our optimization of our traffic flow really helps, cars get on Fifth or, Yellowstone as opposed to cutting through these other side streets.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cheatham.
And yet I kind of find a problem when I'm doing 35 on Yellowstone. I feel like I'm speeding because I'm passing cars consistently doing 25 or 28 miles an hour and slowing down traffic, and we can't make a gosh dang stoplight. I mean, it's exactly the opposite problem, but it feels like I'm going way too fast. I look down and it's 35 miles an hour. And I'm on this guy's bumper with a 1T plate or something. Anyway, is there any concern that the study that you have done from 2018 to 2022, because of COVID, an unusual situation, and because of the Yellowstone, the interstate project, that the data might be a little skewed because of what's happened? Particularly when you mentioned Highline. I drive Highline almost every day, and I see way more traffic on Highline on Jefferson than I ever did before Chubbuck Road was closed. Now, they told us at the Atlantic Transportation meeting this week, Chubbuck Road will open in December. And I presume that will take some of that traffic off of that road and off of some of the other city streets, particularly Pocatello Creek. I'd love to be using Chubbuck Road to go back and forth instead of having to cut down and either use Pocatello Creek or go to the Northgate exit. But is there a concern that the data we're looking at might be a little skewed because of those two situations?
Yeah, I think that's why we balance the 2022, 2023 data against and kind of look at 2021, 2020 as anomaly, and so balance the two most recent years against those kind of 5 years previous so that we can adjust and accommodate for those two COVID years. I think that our plan will align with the state's plan, which is also accommodated for those two COVID years. And so the things that they have seen truly are the aggressive driving, the DUIs, those behaviors, the texting, driving, those are the things that kind of we're focusing on as a nation. And as far as, that traffic from that detour, we already had plans in place that council has approved to look at Highline, and a current grant in place with design going on to signalize El Rancho Pearl. And so I think that we're doing what we can to accommodate those roads that we are aware of. And our draft projects will include the projects that we have in the works already, which Highline would definitely be one. So
One final follow-up, if I could, Mr. Mayor. It looks like our grant guru needs to get to work on funding the rest of those downtown projects that we don't have the money for.
Yeah, and what's good about this plan is even if that data that we're currently using, as we acquire more data, it's kind of an iterative process, and we can adjust to achieve the goals. So as you'll see here, these draft goals are based on percentages of reducing certain types of incidents by a deadline. So if we find that there is one area that does have far more severe crashes that we hadn't originally looked at, we can shift to trying to achieve the goal by addressing that area. And so the point of this plan is to really open up our eligibility for that implementation funding. So that grant funding for the hard infrastructure, which is kind of the process that we have to go through DOT to be eligible for that. But hoping that these goals are broad enough and achievable enough that we can then get that implementation funding and account for new data or more recent data that we hadn't originally used.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, Council President.
I just wanted to make a comment about goal number 7. I'm just very glad to see that. I think that's a general goal of mine for the whole city. I mean, I just really have always wanted to see us become much more bike ped friendly, more walkable. There's so many good things that come from being a walkable city, including the economy and getting people walking and going into businesses and that kind of thing. So I love to see that as part of this plan and increasing that infrastructure. But of course, it also really enhances safety as well. But it has so many other benefits. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Good, yes, Councilmember Mangan.
I'd like to commend you guys for putting this project together and this plan. Focusing on the safety of our citizens is a huge deal and a huge undertaking. And so great job putting this together. And I'm excited to see what you present later in September as this moves forward.
Super, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
And council will move to agenda item 5 is fiscal year 2025 fee change discussion. Council will receive public comment, will review public comments, and council discussion from August 1, 2024 public hearing. We will not receive it, we already have.
Like not again.
Gene stepped out with the police chief. You want me to go find him?
Why don't we take a break, council, for a few minutes until Gene gets back with the police chief? Yes, and if you would, thank you. Thank you for joining us after our break. We'll go ahead and get started again. Fiscal year 2025 fee changes discussion. I've already read through the thing, so we'll just go into it, Gene.
Okay, my apologies for stepping out. Again, Gene Hill, Finance Department, Council, Mayor. Again, this is to discuss the fee changes that are over 5% that the departments that we've needed to raise because of the costs have just continued to go up. So there's a long list of fees.
Council, we had public comment last week. You've had a week to think about it and consider it. Any questions, any concerns, anything you'd like to see changed? Council President Lurick.
I just wanted to bring up one of the comments that we heard in the public hearing and kind of confirm, and you responded to it in the public hearing, but the idea that the rate study was somehow short, and that we've done an annexation and the recycling project that we're moving forward with, and just have you comment on that the rate study is including all of the things that it needs to include and is not short.
Absolutely. So I think the first thing, Ian, is that we cannot anticipate all things, right? Mm-hmm. There's just no way to do that. The rate study, and Jeff can come up as well, but the idea that we hired outside consultants who look at the growth of the city and the needs, and so they project out 5 years what we're going to need, and we set aside money and things for that. And so I think that we're very inclusive of the things that are anticipated and the things that are not anticipated. And the only way you can do that is to forecast based on, other, is it Racket? I always get it wrong.
Reftellus?
Yeah. They're a very notable firm, and so they do this for other cities, and so that they know, based on growth projections and things. This took a lot of time and a lot of data, so I think it's very inclusive of what is seen and unseen.
Okay. So you feel comfortable with
Very comfortable.
that is including things, and good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
That was the only comment I'd written down from last week.
Yeah, that was really the only comment that we had, I think, and so.
There was a comment about wages, but I'm not gonna
Not gonna,
ask about that.
this, it has nothing to do with this right
No.
here anyway.
Nope.
Okay, then, well, thank you. Then we will,
Mr. Mayor, there's a resolution here.
okay,
Do we
hold
need
on.
to pass that?
Gene, just a minute. Okay. That resolution and stuff will be, did we?
I think it's,
We'll pass that Thursday next week. That'll be on the agenda next week. We did not pass it last week. So, yeah, it'll be included next week. Okay. All right, then, thank you.
thank you.
Then we'll move on to agenda item number 6 is Council Advisory Board updates. We'll go ahead and let's start on with Councilmember Cheatham.
Bannock Transportation, pretty routine business this month. One of the major items that we're considering right now is the replacement of the executive director, as he is deciding if he will probably retire next year, and how we're going to go about recruiting someone to replace him, and what the salary level will be, and what the job expectations will be in the future in that position. So that was a big one that we discussed this last time. Airport Commission has not had a meeting. We had some action at the last council meeting on some of the things that have happened there on some leases. There's no meeting this month there. There's no future business. And the other one is the Senior Activity Center. And we held a meeting last week, groundbreaking of sorts with Lowe's to start construction on the new bathrooms. The mayor was there and had a very nice crowd showed up for that event. The board was all there. There were a number of other senior citizens and other people there, and that's moving along quite nicely.
That was a great event, and you did a great job in your little speech that you gave. So that was nice.
Surprised myself.
It was nice that they asked you to do that, but that was really
That's a
good.
great project, $145,000 to be put into a city building that we don't have to fund. The other project that's happening over there is the sidewalk construction on the west side of that building. There's been a problem with water accumulating in that sidewalk, and because of the tilt of the sidewalk draining into the building and damaging carpets and walls for 6 or 8 feet inside the building. And this construction project that's underway over there, which I think finished last Friday, if I remember right. It's close. Yeah, I haven't been back over to look, but it's very close to being finished, and that will drain the water into the streets and away from the building and prevent future damage.
I know we had a lot of that done, and then we had a big rainstorm. Yeah, come on up here, Tom. You can tell me from this table here. Did that? I know we had a big rainstorm that came through. It dumped a lot of water. Did it help what we had done? It might not be complete yet, but
Tom Kirkman, Director of Public Services. The storm was before we started, so we didn't really get a good idea. The site, all the concrete work, I believe, is all done. What's left now is they're going to run sealer along the building and then just tidy up a couple loose ends. So the majority of it, 99% of it is done. It should be done within the next couple of days.
so the next 105-degree day, it would be okay to have one of those gusher
No.
rainstorms. No, it's never okay.
Never, yeah. But that'll be my first stop on the next storm. I want to see it work.
For sure.
Yeah, and while we're talking to the senior center, I had a conversation with our Parks and Recreation
Thank you,
director,
Tom.
and they are planning in the future to do something about the broken sidewalks and brick areas over there to eliminate some of the stumbling hazards that exist across that area east of the senior center.
Yeah.
So those improvements are coming down the road, so it will help a lot. That building looks better. I've been liaison there since I started on council and took 2 years off, but it looks better now than it did 7 years ago when I first started over there. The community has chipped in, done a lot of painting, recarpeting, reorganizing. It's in much better shape than it was 7 years ago, the first time I had a meeting in there.
Yeah. No, there's no question. It's good. And And you mentioned the Lowell's grant. I just want to put a shout out to Lowell's for that. That was just a great grant and just fantastic to have them as a community and a corporate partner. So
Yes.
that was good. All right. Thank you. Council President Lurick.
Rick pretty much covered Bannock Transportation. The SMART grant is continuing to be implemented, and the main thing we're looking at is the new Maury, which is going to be difficult to find, but hopefully we've got a good process that we're beginning to, that we'll find somebody. On downtown historic Pocatello, we had a big discussion about the Center Street underpass and the impact, that has on business owners. And most business owners feel like they're doing very well. The board had developed a marketing plan with Stephanie Pelagi, the executive director, to really help businesses as much as they could and to really get the word out as to what is going on downtown and how you can get there and, come on down and see what's happening. And they have voted, they've been in touch with our staff regularly to see what's happening with the underpass, and now it's going to open back up for a while. And they're going to continue that plan and executing it. And just help businesses as much as they can. Two of the events that are coming up soon are East Side events because, we're sort of split. I mean, we're always split between East and West, but more now with that being closed. So they want to have events on the East Side as well. So we have the regular event that we have, Welcome Back Orange and Black, but now there's going to be an East Side event, Welcome Back on the East Side or something like that, to sort of try to promote that idea on both sides and kind of bring us together a little bit more. They have a very full events calendar. They also, one thing I should mention, we've talked for several years now about the need to raise the dues for the business owners who participate in that bid area, but they have voted to wait on that just because of what's going on. They said they'll wait till later. I think that those are kind of the main things, but they do have their newsletter out and their calendar online, and I encourage everybody to go to the events happening downtown. I will mention last night at Revive at 5, it was especially packed, and I found out that the State Treasurers Association, their meeting is here in Pocatello, and so our treasurer, our county treasurer, Jennifer Clark, actually invited them. That was one of the other than the meetings, one of the events was to go to Revive at 5. So she brought a whole bunch of people, and they were very impressed with the park and the city. And, they were like, I didn't know Pocatello had all this. So it was really good PR for us. The PDA, I don't really have anything to report because we haven't met since the last time we had this update, and I talked about the two new potential TIF districts that we're looking at and studying. So, one that we're really moving forward with and one that might be the next one we would look at. So nothing new there. And then Audit and Investment Committee, we did have a meeting, not real big action items happening at this meeting, but very good information and discussion looking at just sort of the general economy and the trends, and also a brief discussion about we're almost all caught up with getting the audits done and all of that. We're getting to a good place there, and looking at financial policies is kind of a next project, and to get those in good shape. So I think that's, Brent can add anything that I didn't get to.
Okay, I might just, before Councilmember Nichols goes, I might just touch on this historic downtown thing. The underpass
Yes.
should open at the end of next week. In fact, our Public Works Director has a meeting at 11 o'clock with the engineer from LTAC that should be getting this moving quickly, and so it should be opening at the end of next week, without a doubt. And then I just a big shout out to our community with the underpass that's been shut down. They really truly have been very patient with that, and so I appreciate the community there, and our community's also spent more time or more trips. Our traffic counts have been higher since we closed that. And so I think when the community sees something that could damage or hurt, they respond. And traffic counts have increased substantially since we had to close that down. And so hopefully we can get that up and running and things continue to go very good downtown. So
And
thank
the
you.
events are
Events are great.
Events are great. People are, it's not that hard to find your way down there, one side or the other. I'm an east side person, and I go down there without any trouble. So people are attending them. It's not keeping people away.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing from business owners too that they're doing all right.
Yeah, it's the perception is bad, but our community has definitely responded and made some trips down there. And then I might just add another thing with our downtown, the fee. I don't remember when the BID started.
The last time, the fee hasn't changed since 90
Since it
something.
started.
Yeah,
Since
1990 something.
Yeah, since it started in.
90?
Every year, there's a reason why they don't do it. At some point, you have to pull the trigger because they're doing so much more on so much less right now. And there's a lot of activities going on down there. So you might just relay that to that group.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Brent.
All right, so animal shelter, there was just primarily one item that was discussed, and that was they're exploring the feasibility of implementing a spay and neuter ordinance. They're just looking into that to determine whether it makes any sense for our community. And the purpose for that is to help get the animal count down at the shelter. We're at capacity now, and we're consistently at capacity. So that's one of the things they're looking at. Investment and audit, Linda did a great job of explaining that. And then something else I wanted to bring up, it's actually not a formal committee, but I think it's important maybe give an update on it. I had an opportunity to go to the INEL and visit their site cleanup activities, and it was sponsored by the Idaho Environmental Coalition, who was the main subcontractor tasked with remediating all of that waste. And I thought it was important that the council get an update on this because that site and the cleanup has a huge economic development impact on our community. And then again, I'm going to give you some numbers that were put out in a brochure by them. And this is just simply relative to the cleanup activities. It has nothing to do with the research or the Navy out there. So the environmental group alone hires 2,000 employees. There's another 8,000 employees hired by INL. But just on the cleanup side, they're contributing about $830 million into Idaho's economy. The average salary is $111,200, which is amazing. And they're is about, on the total Battelle Energy Alliance system, there's 464 people that live in Pocatello. And there are 194 people that live in Bennett County, just relative to the cleanup. So I think we need to sort of keep that on our radar, that this is a really important economic development issue for us, and it's going to continue for many, many years to come. There's a lot of cleanup that has to be done out there. They're still dealing with all of the legacy waste from the Cold War and weapons plants. And to give you an idea, they said there was 45,000 barrels of buried waste. They're halfway through it now. There's 23,000. But that's just one of multitudes of waste streams that they're dealing with out there.
That's a great. I'm glad that you were able to go out there and do that. It's a really good report on how that impacts our community and the economic impact of our community.
Oh, and I also wanted to point out, they said they have a couple of community giving or grant programs. One of them is pretty significant. Sounds like they've got a couple $1 million in it. And they made it a point to say that that's actually really easy to apply for, that the amount of brain damage to fill out their application is very minimal. And I would think that they fund all kind of things, but I would think anything that would, had an environmental bent to it would probably score pretty highly. They did mention there was a sewer system that they helped fund with it. So for any of our grant writers out there, I've got a bunch of information on that. I'd be happy to pass that in the contacts along.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Councilmember Paulson.
So I've only had parks since the last one, and since they gave a presentation, I had nothing to say there. But Sika today from 4 to 6 p.m. is doing an open house of 4 houses that were just completed. If you want to go, I can send you the addresses.
Sounds good. Thank you. Councilmember Mangum.
Like Hayden, or Councilmember Paulson, we heard from Golf, and so there's that report. NeighborWorks Pocatello is still functioning, going strong. They have a few different projects working on right now. Park Meadows is going strong, almost at capacity, I believe. They are in the planning process for Park Meadows 2. Bonneville Commons is filling up, but there are still available housing units there for sale. They have the historic home tour that's coming up here pretty soon, September 14th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. This, I believe, is the 3rd year doing this with the Resource Committee. It's $20 for the ticket to get for this event. It's a great event. Highlights a lot of the historic homes here within the city of Pocatello. Gives some of the history. Some of the owners of those homes will be there to help facilitate the tour, to tell people about the houses and some of the updates and that have happened in the house, and some of the original pieces that are still there built into the house. The housing authority, they are doing a great job. Rebuilding, revamped. I think I gave last time that I talked about their organization, that they have a new executive director. He's doing a great job revitalizing the programs and dealing with the staff, rebuilding the staff. They now have the Resource Center, which is the old car wash out here on 5th. And they're using that now. They're taking in applications for people to lease space there for ways to help with self-reliance within the community. They're partnering with landlords, giving incentives and initiatives for landlords to accept housing vouchers for people who are underprivileged and also for veterans. What else is there? I believe that's it.
Okay, super. Well,
Mr.
thank
Mayor?
you, yes.
Can I just, real quick, a couple of things from downtown? So that Welcome Back Bengals Street Fest is the east side. It's Saturday, August 17th from 3 to 10. The 200 and 300 blocks of East Center Street. So I encourage everybody to come to that. And then one last thing, our next neon sign is going to be, so it's the Idaho, this was a hotel, or motel, I think it was. And that's going to be on, at Lookout Point, kind of on a bluff. And so that's going to be installed pretty soon as part of our whole historic neon sign program with Relight the Night. So just wanted to share that with you all.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, council, anything else that you need to report on? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for being here today, and with that, we are adjourned.